Hello and welcome to Gradiant's podcast. We have our patent portfolio manager with us today, Maximus St John. Max is one of the founding team members of Gradiant with his degree in mechanical engineering with an emphasis on aerospace engineering from MIT. He originally was a part of the New Products Initiative team, focusing on our carrier gas extraction or CGE technology, before finding his niche in patent management. His eye for detail and understanding legal terms used within proprietary technology has made him our leading patent expert and invaluable to protecting our technical solutions, as well as helping Gradiant procure over 200 global patents. He'll be explaining his role at Gradiant, along with expanding on Gradiant's proprietary technologies. Hi, Max, and welcome.
Hi, Meg. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, and I expect our listeners are really excited to learn about Gradiant's large and diversified patent family. So to kick it off, could you give me some background information about yourself first and how you got into the water industry and how you made the switch from MPI engineer to patent portfolio manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background's in mechanical engineering, like you mentioned. I got my undergrad degree at MIT, and that's where I met Prakash, who, as you know, is the current CTO and one of Gradient's co-founders. Back then, he was just looking for an undergraduate to help him build the humidification, dehumidification system that he was writing his PhD thesis on. And I was looking for an undergraduate thesis project. When he started Gradiant, 2 years later, he brought me on as an engineer. Back then, like when Gradient started, everything we were doing was new. We were building a new technology that no one had ever commercialized before. And we, the first couple Gradient team members, had never built a commercial anything before. So if you combine those two circumstances, you get a lot of new ideas.
That is true.
Yeah, and some of them were good ideas. So we were filing a lot of patents. And that's how I got involved with the patents as an inventor. I'd review specifications before they were filed, and I'd help the lawyers understand the technology so they could respond to office actions and prosecute the patent applications to allowance. During that work, I realized I liked it. It's challenging, it's intellectually stimulating, and it's a constant learning process.
And could you kind of elaborate on the role a little bit more in terms of what it entails? Like, what are your responsibilities other than just, the standard, issuing patents, so to speak?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of what I do is developing strategies for protecting all the technologies. I do a little bit of patent writing, and I help with the patent prosecution, which means arguing with patent examiners. The way that goes is there's a lot of research, some creative thinking, and a little bit of negotiation. Basically, when you file a patent, it doesn't matter how innovative it is, it'll almost always get rejected.
Okay.
And if it didn't, that means that you probably wrote the claims too narrow and didn't get the best possible coverage. So it's it's sort of a negotiation. You start very broad, and then you work with the examiner to narrow it into the most specific, the best coverage you can get away with.
Yeah, all the legal jargon, so to speak. So can you explain to us what is a patent? What does it do for a company in terms of protection and credibility for the technology?
Yeah, of course. The purpose of a patent is exclusivity. A company wants to be the only one that can practice the technology it uses, so it can distinguish itself from its competitors and win project bids. Patents also lend some prestige to a company because they're expensive. A company wouldn't invest that kind of money in a technology unless it believes in it. So a company with a big patent portfolio clearly believes what it has is worth protecting.
And could you give our audience a breakdown of why it's so important that Gradiant has such a wide range of patents and how our patent family differs from other water technology companies? Maybe further explain which patents are most unique to Gradient?
So as of today, Gradiant has a huge portfolio. We have today 229 filings, and 129 of those are issued as patents.
Oh,
And
wow.
those are some really big numbers for a company of Gradient's size and age. And part of that comes down to Gradient's global operation. Like, we practice everywhere. We've got plants all over Asia. We've got projects in Saudi Arabia, US. But patents are country specific. So each country that you want to practice in, that you want that exclusivity in, you have to file a patent there. The other part comes down to the fact that having patent protection doesn't necessarily grant exclusivity on its own. You usually need a couple patents. For example, at MIT, Prakash developed a process for thermodynamically optimizing humidification, dehumidification processes. And that's what we use. CGE is a humidification, dehumidification process. What he patented there was a way for recovering energy in the most optimal way for any kind of heat and mass exchanger. So the idea is actually it goes broader than just humidification, dehumidification processes, and that's an asset, but we really only use it for the humidification, dehumidification. So from an energy standpoint, there's really no better way to operate these processes. So any competitors using them have to do it inefficiently, and that's a bad place to start. On top of that, we've got our own proprietary devices and patents on those as well. So the bubble column humidifiers and dehumidifiers. Those aren't perfect for every single situation, but they're pretty good. They're extremely compact, they're not very expensive, and the bubbling allows for this massive heat exchange area. That's what allows them to be so compact. There are other types of humidifiers and dehumidifiers out there that are better in some circumstances. For example, very large plants. But very large plants are also, like, that's where it's important to be energy efficient.
Yeah.
So with just those two patents, we've kind of boxed everyone else out.
Okay.
And then we have 127 others that help as well.
We're fully covered, basically.
Yeah. Gradiant does a really good job with his patents. Even though we're a small company, we've got the patent portfolio of a much larger one. Each of the technologies has partial or complete exclusivity in the region it does business. And I think that sets Gradiant apart. Patent strategy has to be really forward thinking, because a patent has to be filed it has to be filed before it's disclosed.
Okay.
International filings have to be made just a year and a half after that.
This is kind of a sidetrack question. How long does a patent take typically in order for it to get filed?
Well, it takes like about a month to write one.
Okay.
Although if it's really important, it can, be written faster.
Yeah.
Unless if it's filed with like a track 1 priority, it can get picked up and examined in a month to 3 months.
Wow. Okay.
But normally it takes about 6 months before it even begins examination. And then patent prosecution takes about another 6 months on top of that. It depends on the country too. In some jurisdictions, it doesn't get picked up for like 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, especially in like the Middle East and India has been slow too. They've got a backlog. But China's really fast. Like, you'll file there and you can get an allowance in like as little as a month or two.
Ooh, that's awesome. That's impressive, actually. Well, China is very efficient. We know that.
Yeah, they are.
Continue.
Oh yeah. Anyway, what I was gonna say was that you have to file a patent like when you invent the idea, but it takes like 2 to 5 years to commercialize the technology. So the strategy for protecting the idea and for where you think it'll be practiced has to be finalized way before you're doing it. So it's very predictive. And that's the hardest part.
I can imagine. Long schedule. Another question is, what do you see being the biggest challenge going ahead for the water industry in terms of intellectual property and protections?
Like I said before, I mean, one of the biggest challenges with patent work is being predictive. Well, some of the biggest challenges we face is a lot of the technology we're working on was proposed like 50 years ago. Like, reverse osmosis membranes were invented in like the 1960s. So a lot of the ideas are now in public domain. So it's hard for a company working with these ideas to distinguish itself with all the prior art. It's hard to come up with new ideas in a crowded space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there any particular countries or industries where it's more difficult, would you say, in terms of like mining versus textiles versus, energy? Is there a particular industry that is more complicated?
Well, generally, patents are sort of industry agnostic.
Okay.
The technology that's developed for one industry can usually be cited against a patent intended for another.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, generally reverse osmosis stuff has been really crowded. The CFRO stuff,
Yeah.
although we've really refined the way that we practice CFRO, the guy who originally invented the reverse osmosis membrane, Sid Loeb, also proposed a counterflow reverse osmosis idea, like back in the 60s. So there's a long history of people working on CFRO.
Okay. And lastly, do you have any updates in store with respect to Gradient's ever-growing patent family? Any new patents we should be looking to see in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a couple of provisional applications pending. So I can talk a little bit about those. A couple of them are on new ways to enhance the energy recovery and serviceability of our CFRO systems. That'll make them cheaper to operate and more attractive to use. And then the other provisional that we've got going on is it's directed toward a nature-inspired hydro turbine design.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really good for generating energy from low velocity tidal flows. It's based on the maple seed, which is really good at transforming velocity into lift. What we've done is we've identified some of the key features that allow it to do those things, and incorporated them into a hydro turbine blade, and it works. Our preliminary designs are they're outperforming commercial designs, so it's pretty exciting. There's a few other projects too, but for now those are top secret.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Max. Gradiant would not be where it is today without you watching our back and making sure our technologies are fully and legally protected. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Meg. Thanks, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. It was great to talk about my work.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening to Gradient's podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening.